The sound of rain against the hospital window was soft, too soft for the chaos that had just unfolded in room 314. "Get her away from me," cried the young woman on the bed, clutching her swollen belly. Her name was Rachel, 8 months pregnant, and in the last place she ever thought she'd see the woman standing across from her, her husband's mistress. Emily's voice shook. "You don't understand, Rachel, please, I didn't know you were." "Didn't know I was what?" "The wife," Rachel snapped, tears streaming down her face. "You knew exactly what you were doing." A nurse burst into the room, alarmed by the shouting, and quickly pulled Emily back. "Ma'am, you need to leave now." But Emily didn't move. Her face was pale as if the walls themselves were closing in. "I came here for my father," she whispered. "He's dying in this hospital. I didn't even know he existed until last week." The nurse looked between the two women, confused, but Rachel's anger only deepened. "Save it. You've done enough." Emily turned and fled, the echo of her sobs trailing down the sterile corridor. 3 days earlier, Emily had received a letter, a plain white envelope with no return address. Inside was a single page that read, "You don't know me, but I'm your father. I'm dying. Please come to St. John's Hospital before it's too late." Her mother had passed away when she was a teenager, leaving behind more questions than answers. So Emily came, desperate for connection, desperate for truth. But she had no idea that truth would collide with someone else's heartbreak. The next morning, Rachel sat in silence by the window, her hands resting protectively on her stomach. Her husband, Michael, had been avoiding her calls. She discovered his affair just a week ago, through a series of texts and photos that shattered her world. The betrayal had triggered early contractions, and she'd been admitted for monitoring. Now, her unborn son's heartbeat was the only steady sound in a storm of emotions. When the door opened again, she stiffened. Expecting a nurse, she was startled to see Emily, her face bruised from where Rachel had slapped her during their first confrontation. Emily held a small box in her hands. "I'm sorry," Emily said softly, staying by the door. "I shouldn't have come yesterday. I didn't know what I was walking into." Rachel's instinct was to tell her to leave, to scream again, to protect what little dignity she had left. But something in Emily's trembling voice stopped her. "What do you want?" Rachel asked warily. Emily hesitated, then held out the box. "This belonged to my father. They said he passed away last night. Before he died, he wanted me to give this to someone named Rachel Bennett." "That's you, isn't it?" Rachel blinked, confused. "Me." Emily nodded. "He said you were the kindest nurse he ever met. That you helped him years ago when no one else would." Rachel's mouth fell open. "Your father was Henry Collins." Emily nodded again. Rachel's hands flew to her mouth. I cared for him during his surgery 2 years ago. He was such a sweet man. I had no idea he had a daughter." Inside the box was a faded photograph, a young man holding a little girl at a park, and a note written in shaky handwriting. "Rachel, if you ever meet my daughter, please be kind to her. She's had no one for a long time. You once told me that kindness can save a person's life. You were right. You saved mine." Rachel's breath hitched. The weight of the letter, and the irony of their meeting, pressed heavy on her chest. "I didn't know," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. Emily swallowed hard. "I didn't know who my father was until a week ago. I didn't know who you were when I met Michael, either. I met him at a fundraiser. He told me he was single. I swear, I never would have." Rachel looked up sharply, searching her face. There was no deceit there, only exhaustion, the kind that comes from too much loss, too much regret. Later that night, a nurse found the two women sitting side by side in silence. Emily's head was bowed, her fingers nervously twisting the hem of her sweater. Rachel's hand rested on her belly, her breathing calm. They didn't speak for a long time, until Rachel finally broke the quiet. "I spent so long hating you," she said. "But the truth is, we were both lied to. And that hate, it's been eating me alive." Emily looked at her, eyes wide. "I never meant to destroy your family." "You didn't," Rachel said softly. "Michael did. But you and we don't have to let him destroy us, too." 2 weeks later, Rachel went into labor early. Complications arose. The baby's heart rate dropped dangerously low. As doctors and nurses rushed in, Emily was already in the waiting room. She hadn't left the hospital since that night. When she heard the alarms, she ran. "Let me help," she cried, though she wasn't family, though no one knew what she meant. But she'd seen that kind of panic before, in the faces of people who needed someone to hold them, to whisper that everything would be okay. Hours later, the cries of a newborn filled the room. Rachel wept with relief as the nurse placed the tiny boy in her arms. Emily stood at the doorway, watching, tears streaming down her own cheeks. Rachel caught her gaze and smiled faintly. "Would you like to meet him?" Emily hesitated, then stepped forward. "This is Henry," Rachel said softly. "After your father. After the man who brought us together." Months passed. Rachel finalized her divorce. Michael moved out of state. Emily, meanwhile, found herself coming by more often, to babysit, to cook, to sit quietly when the house felt too empty. They were two broken women, mending each other's wounds in ways neither could have imagined. One day, as they walked through the park with baby Henry bundled in his stroller, Rachel said, "You know, I used to pray that something good would come out of all that pain. I just never thought it would be you." Emily smiled through her tears. "I guess your kindness really did save another life." Rachel squeezed her hand. "No, Emily, we saved each other's." Epilogue. Years later, when Henry started kindergarten, he introduced the two women at the gate with a wide grin. "This is my mom," he said proudly. "And this is my Auntie Em." Parents smiled. Teachers nodded. No one knew the tangled history between them, nor the heartbreak that once defined their lives. And that was the beauty of it. Because sometimes, the people who enter our lives through pain are the very ones who teach us how to heal.